Imagine this. You spend decades hunting for a cosmic villain, this massive, phantom planet that's supposedly tugging on our solar system's giants, only to discover you were chasing a ghost the whole time. But in the process, you stumble upon an entirely new world by pure dumb luck. Well, that right there is the bizarre and wonderful story of Pluto.
So let's get right into it, because the story of how we found Pluto is honestly one of the greatest detective tales in all of astronomy. And it all started with a single, really annoying question. You see, our story doesn't actually begin with Pluto. It begins with a wobble, a tiny, unexplainable little twitch in the path of another, much, much larger planet. Okay, so back in the 1800s, astronomers hit a wall. After they found Uranus, they noticed it was kind of being a rebel. Its orbit just didn't quite line up with what Newton's laws of gravity said it should be doing. Now, this could only mean one thing. Something else was out there pulling on it. And that something turned out to be Neptune, discovered in 1846. A huge win for physics. But the problem didn't go away. Even with Neptune in the picture, Uranus still had this tiny, persistent wobble. The cosmic hunt was on again. This gave rise to the idea of a Planet X. Astronomers became absolutely convinced there had to be another giant planet just lurking out there in the dark, and its immense gravity was messing with both Neptune and Uranus. This wasn't just a theory anymore. For some, it became a complete obsession. The search for this phantom planet would go on for decades. It even led to the creation of a whole observatory dedicated to finding a world that, as it turns out, wasn't even there. The most famous of these Planet X hunters was a guy named Percival Lowell. He was so sure Planet X existed that he founded the Lowell Observatory in Arizona just to find it. But he died without ever succeeding. Years later, in 1929, the mission was handed off to a young, self-taught astronomer from Kansas named Clyde Tombaugh. And get this, he was only 23 years old. Now, his job was incredibly tedious. I mean, mind-numbingly boring. He used this device called a blink comparator. He'd take photographic plates of the exact same part of the sky on different nights, and then flip back and forth between them, just staring, looking for one tiny dot that had moved against the backdrop of fixed stars. Can you just imagine staring at a plate like this? It's a sea of thousands upon thousands of tiny specks of light. And you have to do this for hours, day after day. This is exactly what Clyde Tombaugh was doing in early 1930. And then on February 18th, while he was comparing that plate with another one taken just a few nights later, he saw it. One faint little dot had jumped. It had shifted its position. That wasn't a star. It had to be a planet. The world just went nuts with excitement. Planet X had been found. And the name? That came from an 11-year-old girl in England, Venetia Burney. She suggested it be named Pluto, after the Roman god of the dark, distant underworld. I mean, it was a perfect fit. So, the mystery was solved. The culprit was in custody, right? Well, as astronomers started to study this new world, a new and honestly even more confusing mystery started to unfold. The problem was Pluto kept getting smaller. At first, everyone thought it was about the size of Earth. Then, new calculations in 1948 shrunk it down to about the size of Mars. It seemed like with every new observation, this massive Planet X was getting less and less massive. The real game changer came in 1978 when Pluto's biggest moon, Charon, was discovered. And this discovery was absolutely key. See, finding a moon is like finding a cosmic scale. The laws of gravity are so precise that if you can measure how fast a moon is orbiting its planet and how far away it is, you can calculate the planet's mass with incredible accuracy. For the first time ever, they could actually weigh Pluto. And when they finally put Pluto on that scale, the results were just shocking. Pluto wasn't a giant. It was tiny, smaller than our own moon. Its mass was only 0.2% of Earth's, which means, and this is the crucial point, there was no way this little ice ball could be gravitationally bullying giants like Uranus and Neptune. They had found the wrong suspect. So this led to an even bigger and, frankly, more embarrassing question. If Pluto didn't do it, then who did? What on earth was causing that wobble that had puzzled scientists for more than 100 years? The answer, finally came in 1989, thanks to the Voyager 2 spacecraft. As it flew past Neptune, scientists were able to measure its gravity pull with perfect accuracy.
And what they discovered was that the mass they've been using for Neptune in all their calculations for the last 150 years was wrong. It was only off by 0.5%, a tiny error. But on the grand scale of the cosmos, it was enough to send generations of astronomers on a century-long wild goose chase. As soon as they plugged the new, correct mass for Neptune into the equations, that mysterious wobble in Uranus's orbit just vanished. It was never actually there. The entire hunt for Planet X was based on a simple calculation error. Pluto's discovery wasn't some brilliant deduction. It was a cosmic accident. Clyde Tombaugh was just looking in the right place at the right time. So, the original mystery was solved, a ghost story born from a rounding error. But Pluto, the accidental discovery, was now a permanent part of the solar system family. Or so we thought. Because decades later, new discoveries would force astronomers to ask a much harder question. What exactly is a planet, anyway? See, in 2005, another object named Eris was found, way out past Neptune. And here's the kicker. Eris was even more massive than Pluto. This created a huge problem. I mean, if Pluto is a planet, does Eris get to be one too? What about the hundreds of other similar icy objects they were starting to find out there? So, in 2006, the International Astronomical Union stepped in and basically created a new definition. They said a planet has to do 3 things. 1, it has to orbit the sun. Pluto does that? Check. 2, it has to be massive enough for its own gravity to squish it into a round shape. Pluto is, so check. And then there's rule 3, the deal breaker. A planet has to be the gravitational boss of its own orbit. It has to have cleared the neighborhood, which basically means its gravity is so dominant that it's either sucked up or flung away all the other junk in its orbital path. And this is where Pluto fails. It lives in the Kuiper Belt, which is this massive ring of icy comets and debris. Pluto isn't nearly big enough to control that neighborhood. It's just one resident among countless others. And so, just like that, it was reclassified as a dwarf planet. For a lot of people, this felt like a demotion, a sad end to the story of the 9th planet. But science had one more incredible, jaw-dropping twist in store for Pluto. In 2015, NASA's New Horizons spacecraft flew past Pluto, and for the very first time, we saw it up close. And the transformation in what we knew was just staggering. Before, we pictured this blurry, dead ice ball. What we found was a stunningly complex and active world. It has towering mountains made of water ice, huge plains of frozen nitrogen that form a giant heart, a thin blue atmosphere, and maybe even ice volcanoes that spew a cold, icy slush. Far from being dead, Pluto is alive. So maybe we shouldn't see Pluto's story as a loss. It's more of a reframing. It might not be a planet anymore, but it was revealed to be something way more interesting. The magnificent, complex, and still mysterious king of a whole new realm of worlds in our solar system. The story of this accidental discovery, it turns out, is still just beginning.